hate when it doesn't work properly. All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Market Down Podcast. My name is Nick Cummings, joined this week by Daniel Hernandez and James Asante. We are back here live to review the latest episode of AEW Dynamite. And we are actually going to start with the main event of the evening, which saw Wardlow face off against Powerhouse Hobbs for the TNT Championship. Now, they had set this up earlier in the night. Apparently, Wardlow got robbed after the pay-per-view the other night. So he literally not only lost all of his gear out of his rental car, but the TNT title was actually also stolen. So they used that as a storyline. And pretty much because Hobbs has no gear, and I'm pretty sure he just borrowed clothes, he did mention that earlier, they ended up turning this into a Falls Count Anywhere match for the title. So the match actually got started in the parking lot, with both men being powerbombed onto the hood of a car and being slammed into the car doors. The two eventually fight into the back of a semi-truck, where Wardlow actually pushed Hobbs to a divider and went for a pinfall, but he kicked out. All of that, the second part of that being during the picture-in-picture. Eventually, they fight their way back all the way to the ring, where Wardlow hits an F10 to Hobbs, but Hobbs kicks out of it. Hobbs then recovers and hits 3 straight spine busters to Wardlow, but Wardlow kicks out of that as well. Hobbs then he then goes to set up a table on the outside while Wardlow is down in the crowd. Wardlow is able to recover. He comes back over. He actually spit water into the face of Hobbs to give him the advantage, set up Hobbs on the table, and then went up top to hit a swanton bomb through the table. And again, Hobbs is able to kick out of that. Wardlow then hit a power bomb onto the ramp, but it appears he tweaked something in the process. I'm not sure if that was for real or not, because quite frankly, it didn't come into play for the rest of the match. But then Wardlow walked Hobbs up the ramp towards the announce desk, and he went to go power bomb Hobbs off of the stage. Then, for some fucking reason, QT Marshall showed up, and commentary with the very smart save, reminding us that during Hobbs and Wardlow's initial feud, QT said that he would have Hobbs's back and that he was a man of his word. So QT comes over and he hits Wardlow in the back with a chair. Wardlow shrugged this off and grabbed QT by the neck, but QT kicked him square in the dick, and then Wardlow dropped to his knees. QT then laid in 2 headshots with the chair. He goes and picks up Powerhouse Hobbs and wakes him up, basically. The two of them then powerbomb Wardlow off the stage, and Wardlow is unable to get up for the 10 count while QT holds Hobbs up to make sure he doesn't get counted out, and Hobbs becomes your new TNT champion. I'm not sure where they got the belt from. I guess they had a backup one lying around somewhere. It was a replica, but there was an actual belt to give to Powerhouse Hobbs. So, James, I know it feels to me like they kind of had to figure this out on the fly. Perhaps this was always some sort of plan here with QT, but I think perhaps the no holds barred thing came in later, unless the whole Wardlow getting robbed thing is a work, and we don't know, but it kind of didn't feel like one. But either way, I thought this was a pretty good Falls Count Anywhere match. It was fun. It was violent enough. You know, you got your big meaty men slapping me, and we get a new champion, even though it was more at the hands of QT Marshall than Hobbs winning it for himself.
Yeah, I've been clamoring for Hobbs to win a title for a while. I think this guy has so much potential. He's improved greatly in the ring, and I think he's a very good promo. I think he's developed into a really good promo. His Book of Hobbs stuff that he was doing, like the vignettes, were really good.
Yeah, cool.
It actually makes me more disappointed about the QT Marshall of it all. Like,
QT Marshall.
Marshall, not Dustin Rhodes, whatever. If he needed the help for on the mic, sure, partner him up with QT, but he didn't. He doesn't. I don't think. I think he's developed very well in the time we've seen him in AEW, and he could stand on his own. Maybe they wanted to generate more heat for him, and QT is a good way of doing that. But I think they could have done it in different ways. So this moment that should have felt like a culmination for a while and a lot of hard work for Hobbs it feels shallow. It feels empty a little bit. And you know what? Maybe I am supposed to feel that way. Like I've been really revisiting how I felt about the Iron Man match, and I was made to feel. I felt the way I think I was supposed to feel after that Iron Man match, and maybe that's the case here too. Maybe I'm supposed to feel, really? This is how he's got to do it, and I'm rooting for this title run of his. I kind of felt like no matter who came out of the pay-per-view as the winner, Hobbs was going to win today. So I'm glad that I was proven right in that. I just wish we had gone a different way to get there. But Hobbs is great. I love the multiple spine busters. I love spine busters in general. And he made them look devastating when he hit them on Wardlow. And Wardlow went to the Roman Reigns school of kicking out at like 2.9. That was really, really good. And I think those guys do have a good amount of chemistry, especially for two Hosses who basically should just be throttling each other. So I think they made the most of a bad situation considering Wardlow got robbed. I don't think QT coming in has anything to do with that one way or the other. I did kind of say before we went live, are they implying that QT was the one who robbed Wardlow because where did the championship come from? I don't remember if it was ever there during the commentary, like during the entrances. Because there really weren't entrances. They fought backstage first.
Yeah, when they went up the ramp, Wardlow dragged Hobbs up the ramp. You could see it at the edge of the commentary desk. So it was there. But like I said, they probably just have a backup. You know, there's probably just a single like house title, so to speak. That or they borrowed -1s real quick. But
I either way, they let go of that belt.
They had one somewhere, obviously, and I imagine they used that just for the sake of using it. But I have to agree with you. I don't feel like Hobbs needs the help, and it kind of takes away from, like you said, his culmination finally of becoming a champion. It's because I like Hobbs just as much as you do, and I just feel like him winning this way, it's a bit of a letdown. Hobbs is a guy who should come in and dominate to a victory, or at least have a very strong, hard-hitting match like he was having against a big guy like Wardlow. So,
and we've seen that he could be underhanded. You know, that was the whole point of his feud with Ricky Starks. It's fine if he takes the cowardly way out, despite being the powerhouse, no pun intended, that he is. But I don't know. I think you could have had him be a heel beating Wardlow, like a cheating heel beating Wardlow, without him needing like he needed help. Because even after he won, he looked like, oh my god, I'm out of this. Like he looked like he was handed the win, as opposed to being given a little bit of help for the win.
Oh yeah, no, he was 100% into the win because he wasn't even able to stand at the end of the match. QT held him up so he could get the win, and then when QT raised his hands in celebration, Hobbs immediately collapsed.
So Danny was worried about how the image of Hobbs coming down that ladder last week was going to be the lasting image we had of him. I don't even care about that image anymore. I care about this one, and this isn't any better. It's, I think, a little worse.
Yeah, I don't want to call it worse, but it's certainly not. It's just not the way, Danny, I wanted to see Hobbs win a title. So I guess I'm a little disappointed, even though he does finally have one.
Yeah, I'm not disappointed. It's fine. It's fine. It's all fine. You guys are worried about nothing. You gotta look at the bigger pictures here. The big picture is that Hobbs only has the title, so he can, maybe like 3 months from now, lose it to Ricky Starks. So Ricky Starks get a title, like we've been talking about for weeks on here. So you gotta look at it like that way. He has it as a reward for him, something to boost him up, to set him up better for the future. But it's also a stepping stone to get to Ricky Starks being rewarded for getting over as all hell. And the other thing, really, forget about Starks. Poor Wardlow, man. Like, bro, this guy, what a week. First of all, let's not rule out the possibility that the person that broke into his car and stole the title was actually like one of these Reddit users who are coming out with spoilers, and that was just their meta way of letting us know this guy was losing his title. So we can't rule out any of that. But in all honesty, this is a shitty week for Wardlow. Like, like that's just rough. This guy can't catch a break. Every time he gets a big moment, like the air is let out of the room, like someone burst his bubble. First it was the Scorpio Sky TNT title stuff. Then it was MJF and the fucking plane, or that whole fiasco. And now it's this person that broke into his car and stole all his stuff, including the title belt. So, like you're gonna lose the title right away. Like that's fine because it's serving a purpose and the title they already had. Like you can accept that, but to not even be able to hold the title and bring it out for that match, for that moment, for not to not be able to make one entrance with the title and then you lose it, like that's a bummer. But I don't mind the Q thing. I mean, I mind because QT is a jobber and like it's hard to take him seriously. That is the problem of it. But otherwise, it's Wardlow being protected and set up for a feud to keep him busy and keep him away from the title. So like the only problems I have with this is just that QT is not a believable person. That I don't even think you could hurt Wardlow by kicking him in the dick. Like that's the only issue, honestly, with it for me. Like I don't mind Hobbs being beat up so much that he's selling. Like that's MJF sold the shit out of the match with Brian. I'm not comparing the two things, but like that's I have no problem with it in that regard. But yeah, I feel mostly bad for Wardlow, someone who I really don't even care about anymore at this point, but I just feel for as like a person right now. Like that sucks for him.
To bounce off something Danny said, I kind of went into Wardlow losing this title because I expect him to sooner than later challenge MJF for the title. I think he's going to lose to MJF, but I do see him challenging MJF for the title. And what a shame it is because Danny's point of, well, I don't even really care about Wardlow right now, at least as a character. It's such a shame when a year ago we were all clamoring for him to just throttle MJF. And how far that's come and how far down he's fallen because of how they booked his TNT title reign in the first place. So now... And
a lot of that's on MJF too. Let's not...
no. And that's what sucks. That's what absolutely sucks here. Wardlow versus MJF for the world title feels like it makes so much sense. It feels like it should be a money feud. But the reality is MJF sandbagged Wardlow the night Wardlow got his big win against MJF. And I feel like he's been trying to play catch-up ever since. Winning the TNT title should have felt like a great moment. Felt like, okay, well, here's your moment because we couldn't let you have a moment with MJF. The run was bad because of Tony, and I don't think Wardlow did anything wrong in his run. But now there's just no hype for him. And I think I could get hyped for a title match against MJF. I think I could. But I shouldn't have to work my way up to getting hyped for it. It should just be there inherently. So it's such a bummer. And I think he is talented enough that he could turn this around. Especially because, again, he hasn't done anything wrong, in my opinion, except for have the hair that he does. But... I'm really rooting for him because I think he's got it.
Yeah, and you can see that because he, despite the fact he's been having a rough go of it lately, both in and out of kayfabe, he still cheered. People still love to get into the Powerbomb Symphony and count and sing, and he does the whole conducting of the symphony and everything. People like his shtick, so. He can bounce back. He's just got to find a way to do it. And I can understand why that would be difficult when he's had such like a stop and go recently where he had the run with the title, he lost it, and then he disappeared for a while after he lost to Joe again. And then he comes back, he beats Joe, but then he immediately loses the title after getting fucking robbed. So he got robbed and then he got robbed in this match. So it's a tough look for him where people want to like this guy and back him and cheer him, but he just can't get any momentum. because of the stop and go. So
I think the Joe feud actually hurt him a lot more than it helped him too.
Which one?
Well, I mean, just from the start of War Joe to just Sunday, I think it did more harm than good. He never looked as dominant as he should. Doesn't matter that he made Joe pass out to his own finisher. He's the guy who got beaten by Joe, got outsmarted by Joe, got humiliated by Joe, and by the time he got the win and the title back, it just felt like too little too late.
Yeah, because it was, months later? And Joe had lost the title and then won it back by then.
Yeah.
Like there was so much time between the two. Yeah, I didn't really give a shit. And I feel bad because I love Joe and I want to like Wardlow, but just genuinely did not give a shit.
Yeah, it's a bummer.
Yeah. All right, let's move to the top of the card where the episode actually started. And I thought this was really smart. Instead of the usual signature to start the show, they actually did an extended one where there was a small recap of the highlights of AEW Revolution, which I thought was a good idea. People who missed it, you get to see some of the bigger moments, and I like that. And then we started with Orange Cassidy versus Jay Lethal for the All-Atlantic Championship. Thank you to whoever changed the ticker. This Jeff Jarrett and the Slapnuts during Jay Lethal's entrance were prevented by referees and AEW officials from joining Lethal at ringside, which I thought was good. I wanted to see these guys straight up. There's always so many shenanigans between these two teams. It's more fun to just watch them go at it without any nonsense. So Orange injured Lethal's right arm early in the match, but Lethal returned the favor and injured Orange's left leg, and Lethal ended up working over that for most of the match. Later, after a diving and then a tilt-a-whirl DDT that Lethal kicked out of, Orange went for the Orange Punch, but his leg ended up giving out. Lethal was able to take advantage of this, and he locked him into the figure four until Cassidy was able to get to the bottom rope. And then after a hilarious striking exchange on the apron where Lethal was laying in chops and Orange was just literally laying in chops. And so Orange was able to sucker Lethal in. The two of them went back into the ring. Lethal hit a lethal combination and then went up top to hit the elbow drop. But Orange got the knees up to counter, injuring both men further to their injured elbow and injured knee. Cassidy then goes for the Orange Punch again, but Lethal countered with a pretty sweet cutter, and Orange was able to kick out of that. Lethal then went for the lethal injection, but his injured arm ended up giving out, allowing Cassidy the time to set up and hit the Orange Punch to retain the All-Atlantic title. After the match, Lethal went for the Golden Globe that they still have for some reason. I don't know legally how they're still able to maintain that. They robbed the guy. But Bryce Remsburg ended up stopping him and forced him up the ramp. And while Remsburg was distracted, and Orange was as well, Jeff Jarrett comes in from behind and hits the stroke onto Orange and then breaks his guitar over Cassidy's knee, injuring him further before he is chased off by the Best Friends. So, Danny, another successful defense for Orange Cassidy in another very good match against Jay Lethal. On Twitter, Tony Khan ended up outlining why they were having this match. I think he mentioned that, and they mentioned this on commentary as well, Lethal was the last man to pin Orange before he won the All-Atlantic title. Apparently, numbers go up when these two wrestle. So I very much enjoyed this rubber match.
I enjoyed it too. I thought it was a really good, really fun match. I think we should just throw in the tidbit that happened later on the show now because it's relevant that next week Jeff Jarrett's going to face Cassidy for the upgraded All-Atlantic Championship, the International Championship.
Such a better name, right?
No.
You don't think so?
No.
I much prefer it.
Just sounds like Intercontinental title. All-Atlantic's a perfectly fine name.
Way better name.
Producer boy, you produce. No opinions, but you got to be objective.
I mean,
unless you're agreeing with me.
Yeah, I couldn't tell who he was agreeing with there, but
I was agreeing with James.
Yeah, fuck yeah. Producer boy, you're awesome. Please speak up more. Thank you.
Whatever. Okay, the two Hollywood elites agree with each other. Big surprise. Big surprise. But they're more or less the same name. It's not way better. There's barely a difference. It's all just words.
I admittedly only ever called it the Atlantic Championship. I always forgot to call it the All-Atlantic Championship. So this is a James problem. I recognize this.
Do you ever call it elite wrestling instead of all elite wrestling? Like, what's?
I do consider it the Elites company. Yes.
He calls it the Elites Wrestling.
They don't do much of that. But anyway, sorry to get back on track. This match,
I kind of like.
great.
I'm sorry, just so I can get in. I kind of like the new name. I was fine with All Atlantic Championship, but Inter. It's not the Intercontinental, is it?
International. Damn it, Danny.
I even
it's too close.
that.
It's bad. It's a bad title for that alone, but otherwise it's fine. It's just another word. Like
I even screwed up the cryon on the bottom there. I put Intercontinental just out of habit, which I feel like is going to happen a lot. But I kind of like the name changes due to the fact that it is a title that has been defended in many companies across the globe, and it just being the All Atlantic. I think we kind of made this joke when they came out with the title. It kind of just implied it was only going to be defended in places that have a shore with the Atlantic Ocean.
See, I'll be honest.
They got defended in Japan, and I was like, do they need an all Pacific title now?
I
think international is good, and it goes with the fact that this title is defended internationally, and Tony Khan spoke to that during his announcement.
Which he did a terrible job of explaining.
I genuinely thought that the title was only going to be defended by people who were like from the Atlantic area.
Okay, first of all, international title is not the mid-card title, and TNT is just for TNT. It's a better name. Those two sentences have nothing to do with each other. Like that doesn't explain much. You did a good job explaining that the TNT title is just for TNT.
Except it was on TBS tonight.
On TBS, yeah.
Yeah. So I get what you mean, Eric, but I don't agree with you, and you're also not making sense. You're not explaining yourself well. But no offense. Don't be offended by that. But I don't think it's a big deal. And I think the way he explained it made it more confusing because he just kept saying, it's going to be defended Is it going to be defended only internationally, or is it just going to be the exact same thing? Because I feel like it's just going to be the exact same thing.
I think he mentioned it was the only AEW title that had changed hands on international soil. So I think that was his point, and that was the build up to it becoming the international title. The international title cannot be defended. So it can't be defended on the Jericho cruise, is what you're telling me there, Will? It can't happen only at sea.
I feel like they wouldn't take that hard of a shot against Jericho there. Like, that's not... Tony Khan wouldn't do that. But anyway, this match was really fun.
I was just with the announcement, though, last thing. It was so funny how much he worked in Warner Brothers Discovery and Shazam. And then it was so funny how many times he said level up. Honestly, next week, drink every time they say level up during this match because you will be hammered in the first 5 minutes of it. They are going to drive that home, and there's going to be so much Shazam, which I'm cool with corporate synergy. I get it, but there's
I love the first Shazam movie. I think it's my favorite movie of the DCEU.
I mean, that's not saying much, and also love is a strong word. It's like
I strongly love that movie.
It was good. I enjoyed it.
I enjoyed it, but it's not like I wouldn't even say it's good. I would just say that I enjoyed it. I would say it's harmless is its best quality. Or its best quality is that it has Chuck in it, but
Which in the good call. But yeah, in the DCAU, harmless is like top tier. So
yeah, but anyway, he said that. Did he? Oh, did he not? I thought he just said it. I thought he said it with the Canadian accent. Sorry. But speaking of Orange Cassidy,
back to the match.
So good. He's just the best champion on the show right now, and I think that's very apparent. He's just the most consistent wrestler of the year so far, besides Bryan Danielson when he was wrestling every week for 4 weeks straight, and then had the best Iron Man match of all time, possibly. Definitely, yeah. I don't want to be definitive because then people take us to task on it, but it's without a doubt, and you can't prove otherwise. But I don't want to say for sure, but it's undoubtedly. But Cassidy's been so consistent, man. He's just been killing it every week, and he's just bringing these people up. And the fact if the only thing is, I would have been concerned that he was going to lose the title with the post-match beatdown. But since they're leveling up the championship, it's like, okay, like, no, he's probably going to win. But
that's actually why I'm concerned he's going to lose.
Oh, you have it the other way. You're the opposite of me.
Yeah,
See,
because
the post-match made me think he was going to lose, but then the announcement does, because it's putting it on Jarrett's dumb. That doesn't make any sense.
I agree it's dumb to put it on him. But before I get there, historically, and I think it's really only ever happened with the women's championship, every time they upgraded the belt, either changed the design or made it bigger, the person who was defending it, they got to come out with the new belt, and then they lost that new belt. So they have an image. They have an image with that current at the time championship, and then they lost it to who they were defending it against. So that's why I'm kind of worried that they're going to say Orange is going to be like the first international champion, and he's going to lose it on his first defense. That he technically held it, and he'll technically have that lineage. But I am worried that he's going to drop it because Jarrett is a heat magnet. They might just want to drop it to him, so whoever takes it off of him, like the same thing they did with the guns, and now it looks like with FTR. Like I think they just want a big baby face to come in. Can you take that down? Thank you.
I did take it down.
Thank you. They want a baby face to take it off of him and not have to worry about going against Orange Cassidy and beating Orange Cassidy.
Producer boy out here just trying to get himself over. To your point about the
wait,
women's
how
title,
No, that was Danny. That was Danny.
Yeah.
Oh,
That was
you.
Eric made the comment. Danny highlighted it.
I mean, I just found that out literally today, so it is topical to me.
I'm gonna point it out. All
My
he did was criticize the company that is Pfizer. He hasn't said anything anti-vax. He just thinks that there is a very real possibility. He just thinks Pfizer is a corrupt company.
Yeah, but he's also a big Jordan Peterson fan. So
He said one thing about Peterson. I'm not getting into it. Anyway, let's just move forward, please.
To your point about the women's, James, it was, I believe, Sheeta to Britt Baker and then Britt to Thunder Rosa, if I remember my lineage correctly. So, yeah, I think it's. I don't think Orange is losing next week, though. But they are hitting the point where we kind of were with Darby a few weeks ago, where he's wrestling every week and he's starting to get more and more injured, and now this knee is going to be an issue. Same way I think it was Darby's. Well, I forget if it was his leg or his ribs. At a certain point, it was Darby's body in general. But I can see perhaps he barely escapes Jarrett and then maybe loses the week after.
So it's Christian Cage, who will win a singles title before Jungle Boy.
That would be good. It's a shame that they didn't do that next week in Canada. Like if they had Christian go up against Orange Cassidy after Orange just received this beatdown and then barely squeaked by Jarrett this week.
Why
and
is
then
you
next week
Canada?
you have Christian's Canadian, eh?
Orange Cassidy's Canadian.
It was not.
Yes, he is.
Yeah, yes.
Well, he's got the American flag behind his name every time they do this international championship thing.
That's why he didn't win it at Grand Slam. He won it in Canada. That's why he didn't beat Pac at Grand Slam, so he could do it in Canada like 2 weeks later. So why would you already have a Canadian babyface? Why would you
never mind. Because they bill him from America. Well, they bill him from wherever. So
yeah, Canada is wherever.
Fair, but they always put the U.S. flag behind him. That's why I thought he was American. So my apologies.
Oh man,
I have to
WWE.
I have to hard disagree with that. I thought this week was great.
I agree. What didn't you like about it, the Viper WWE? Tell us what you think.
I thought this was a really, really good follow-up to Revolution. A little bit promo heavy, but nonetheless a good follow-up to Revolution. And speaking of promos, we actually had the earlier mentioned interview backstage with Powerhouse Hobbs, where he made a joke about Wardlow's car getting broke into after Excalibur broke that down for everybody. So Hobbs said something like that would never happen to him, especially in that part of the world, because he is from Oakland. And then he remarks that he's going to take the last thing that Wardlow has left, which is being called champion. After that, we had a Ricky Starks promo in the rings. Ricky comes out, tells everybody that he's having an absolute hell of a week because he beat Jericho and he's been hanging out in Cali for the last few days. And then Ricky goes, all right, well, what's next for me? And he says, it's not really what's next for me. It's where's next for me. And before he can really get to his point, the Bullet Club music hits. And Ricky turns towards the stage, but he's attacked from behind by Juice Robinson. Juice hits him, just absolutely fucking spikes him into the mat, and then stands over him. So, James, I think Excalibur mentioned that perhaps Juice wasn't in Bullet Club anymore, or I guess he at least wasn't sure. So, since you are a resident New Japan guy, is Juice still in Bullet Club, and what does the direction seem to be from here with these two guys?
So, as far as Bullet Club goes, it's very much in flux right now. It seems that the new leader of Bullet Club... It seems that the new leader of Bullet Club is being set up to be David Finlay. And if you're familiar with Fit Finlay, that's his son. After Jay White got beaten by Hikuleo at, I believe it was not New Beginnings, Battle in the Valley, Dave Finlay came out, hit him with the stunner, and that was it. That was the last thing we saw for them. As far as it goes, so we don't really know what's going on with Bullet Club. As far as Juice Robinson goes, a few weeks ago, it was either on BTE or Rampage or just one of those shows. Dark Order tried recruiting Juice, and he said, I'm still Bullet Club. I don't know why you think I would want to join you guys. I've got my friends. I've got my Bullet Club, and that was it. So they've maintained, even if it's been very much behind this, like very low-key, very under the radar, that Juice is still Bullet Club. I do feel, personally, that for life, except if you're AJ Styles. But I do feel that this was sort of meant to be a litmus test for how people would react to Jay White, because that Bullet Club music hit, the fans got crazy, and then Juice Robinson came out, and then the fans got quiet, which is a shame because Juice is incredible. He is so fun. He is a fun mid-card heel. No, as somebody,
I wouldn't say quiet. I would just say they got quieter.
Okay,
They were shocked. It was a surprise. It was like oh.
Do you think they would have been shocked quietly if Jay White was doing it?
No, I'm saying they would be louder if it was Jay White. I'm just saying.
Oh, that's what I'm saying. Yeah,
it didn't go like quiet. I just think it went from like the pop dwindled for sure, but it wasn't like silent. There were Juice chants, like it was,
and that was good. That was good. That
being said, I would have been quiet, but you know, like.
but
I mean, third, James.
Thank you. As someone who watched Juice in New Japan, the guy is really funny. Like, he's a funny mid-card heel. Like, I don't think he should be going for the World Championship or anything, but I think he serves his role really well as a mid-card heel. I would like to see him pick up a couple more wins in AEW, and by a couple more, I mean any wins in AEW. But I think this would be a good, fun feud for Ricky. The problem is, we're starting to run into this little problem where Ricky is going to be having feuds that are fun and doing whatever, but none of them are for titles because they're not ready for him to be a champion, it seems. So I am doing my best to fight off years of WWE mental brainwashing, which is if you're not feuding for a title, your feud isn't important. But I do think even with that mindset, this does kind of feel like filler.
Perhaps, and maybe to Danny's point earlier, they are setting up, for eventual Hobbs versus Starks again. And yeah, we might have to have a couple of filler feuds to get Ricky some more wins as he heads towards that, Danny.
Yeah, that's all it is. Again, and you admitted it, it's your WWE brain, but I mean, it's a filler feud. Like that first meme the producer boy put up with the gif of like Charlotte crying, like, oh, I tuned in to see Ricky just to see him cut a 2-minute promo and then get jumped from behind. Wow, yeah. Oh, man, the guy got to fucking win a feud decisively against Chris Jericho, which literally no one can say in this fucking company.
Orange Cassidy.
He lost a singles match to him still. And he lost the first match specifically. And then the feud dragged on too long. Yeah, a lot of people win the feud, but not decisively. Not like Jericho didn't beat Starks once. He did not pin Starks. That is
fair.
Unheard of. Like, literally, I think only Moxley's the only person who has beaten Jericho without given a win back. Like, and he got a superstar reaction. It came out, got to cut a promo with excitement, and he got a feud set up. There's no downside here, literally. And yeah, it's a huge step down from Jericho. You know, you're facing a guy whose most notable thing is dating Tony Storm, but like, or being married to Tony Storm. Sorry,
he beat Moxley. He beat Moxley for the U.S. title.
It's true.
Cool,
but the most notable thing in AEW is being with Tony.
Yeah, and see, that's the thing. I get it for anyone who's thinking it was Jay White. That is disappointing. It's like this would have been way cooler if it was Jay White. I'm not disagreeing with that.
Why would it have been Jay White's music? Or like it wouldn't have been Bullet Club music. I don't think he's Bullet Club anymore.
We don't know. That's the problem.
Yeah.
We don't know. But I understand it being a tease. Like I for a split second thought it was Jay White. I'm not gonna say otherwise because who else would it have been? Yeah. My brain didn't immediately go, "Oh yeah, Juice Robinson's in the company."
Fair. He's barely on TV, so fair.
Yeah, it's fine. Like it's really not a big deal. It's just a filler feud for a couple weeks because Hobbs needs to have the belt for at least a month at this point after all the hot potato win.
No, I agree.
So that's fine. It just is what it is. It's a filler feud, but not in a bad way. This guy just needs some. We're gonna give him more wins, and that's it. But yeah, like Eric said, Jay White's going to WWE, so it doesn't matter.
To James's point, though, Juice is very fun. He's a very good wrestler. I think these two guys will have some very good promos together, and I think they'll have a couple of good matches together. So I have no problem with this feud. Like, yeah, it's a step down from Jericho, and yeah, we'd love to see Ricky go for a title from here, but those are kind of all wrapped up right now. So having just a good, entertaining feud that'll keep Ricky over for the next couple of weeks is a good thing, at least in the interim.
Yep.
All right. So after this, we had another backstage interview, this time with Wardlow. Wardlow obviously had to borrow some clothes from some friends, and he was rocking FTR gear. But he says that since he's dressed for the occasion,
wait, real quick. I don't want to pick holes in the logic here, but why did FTR have like double XL shirts on them? Like those guys were like tight mediums or a small large. You know, why do they have shirts that could fit Wardlow?
Because they needed to be able to sell their merch after the show at the table, man. You know, like they just gave one away for free, but they're always working.
Also, to this meme on the screen that Producer Boy put up, maybe wait to see how this World WrestleMania plays out, because pretty sure Solo is going to end up in the Wardlow role in this feud where Cody's going to hand him that L on the road to beating Roman. So keep that in mind, Wardlow, even though it's just a meme, but you know.
Okay, so after that interview, we had another interview, this time in the ring, and it was with Ruby Soho. Obviously, Ruby just turned heel this past Sunday, joining with Saraya and Tony Storm. So she comes down with Renee, and Renee asked the very obvious question, why did Ruby join with Saraya and Tony? Ruby blames the fans in a very generic response, in my opinion, saying the fans cheered her when she lost to Britt for the title, and that they booed her when she beat Chris Statlander in the Owen. And then she said the same things that happened to Tony and Saraya, where Tony was disrespected by the company, where they wouldn't even call her champion. They would refer to her as the interim champion. And that Saraya was booed after everyone begged her to come back. Ruby then tells Renee that the three of them want to build the women's division, but they can't build it on such a shoddy foundation, built with, created by a bunch of entitled rookies. And then Ruby ended up calling out her opponents for her match, who was entitled rookie Sky Blue, which we will get to in a second. But James, despite the fact that
no, you're not throwing to James on this one first.
Okay, fine.
You just threw to him first. And also,
I lose track.
It's okay. It's okay. You're colorblind. We understand. But this promo was so great, and I have to not immediately because I'll let you finish, but I have to vehemently disagree with you that I think, and like Sean Ross Sapp said, the blaming the fans worked perfectly for this. The Strainmaker tweet is the same as the Sean Ross Sapp tweet.
I was going to actually say that. My initial thought was, oh, it's the generic the fans promo, because that happens all the time. But this worked beautifully. To Excalibur's point on commentary, yeah, it was a bit of revisionist history, and she, but that's what heels do. They leave things out. But just the fact that she brought up very specific instances where the fans were not behind her, Tony, or Saraya, or the company for that matter in Tony's case, this worked really, really well for Ruby, and I thought she absolutely killed it in the promo.
Also, where was the revisionist history there? Like, where's the revisionist history? Not that she said was a lie.
Saying that some of the women didn't have her back, or that the crowd never had her back, when I thought the crowd obviously cheered her on many occasions, despite the fact she did list examples where they went against her. And also, too, as we'll see after the match, there were wrestlers that had her back, in that locker room, and she's just choosing to ignore them at the moment.
Like Willow Nightingale.
Yeah, sure.
I was setting that up, James. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. But she is a justified heel who is genuinely, the way she put it in such a compelling way. How can you say that she is wrong? Like, yeah, the crowd cheered for her when she debuted. They cheered for Saraya when she debuted. But how quickly they turned. All right, we were in that crowd. All right, we were not. The crowd was very split between them, and the crowd popped huge when Britt won. People all of a sudden didn't want her to just come in and take the title off of Britt. And yeah, it was totally worth it, getting the Thunder Rosa championship reign. But got to put over those homegrown talents. And then Saraya didn't even get fucking 2 weeks without that shit happening. And Tony never gets the respect she deserves, especially on this podcast with half these people hating fucking women and hating foreigners. So, like, she stands no chance. And that's the thing. And the best part of this is that Ruby's role is crystal clear now. She is the solidified, undisputed talker of this faction. Holy shit, this promo was so good, so well spoken, like so well delivered. That's what she is there for now. She is justified in being her character motivation. Makes perfect sense, but she has a role, and she is going to be the talker of this group because she explained why all three of them would be better, not just herself, all three of them. So she, remember, I mean, I don't remember exactly. I think you were a little more open to it, Rev, but remember how like some of you guys were against Ruby joining this group? It's already way better. This was my favorite thing on the show. Like, I'm like, in all honesty, this was like the best part of the show. She over-delivered on this promo. And you know what? I know you're saving the match, but I'm going to throw it in because it's a fucking squash match. We don't need to separate the two things.
I just wanted to give the promo the time it deserved.
Yeah, well, because I think it's a factor in it. She dominantly fucking beat Sky Blue, where she took 90% of the match and then also won. She didn't get her ass kicked for 90% of it, and then she went at the end. She dominantly won when she should have dominantly won because she's coming off a heel turn, and Sky Blue is a jobber who will be great one day. But
she cheated. She grabbed the hair to hit the Destination Unknown in order to win the match. So
and there you go. You still do the heel work, and then afterwards, which I know that does deserve more breathing room, but I'm still gonna blow through this too. When they were going to spray paint her, Willow came out, and that's where we had the little bit of hypocrisy where it's like, well, she did have someone to have her back for a little bit, and Willow, which I was a fan of, instead of trying to fight her, tried to reason with her, to say, hey, it's not too late. You just turned to the dark side. You can come back. And of course, she didn't do it. I actually like the way they framed it, where it was like Saraya and Tony were leaving to give them their space and then just snuck back in anyway.
Yeah,
I thought that was nice, like staging there. And then they laid them both out and spray painted both of them. And it was really, really good. Weird that Jamie and Britt didn't come out. They're selling, I guess, what happened at the pay-per-view, which is weird because like some other people who had more grueling matches on the pay-per-view weren't doing that. But
somebody almost died and they still had a match, but we'll get to that later.
Yeah. But I thought this was phenomenal. I really do think this was the highlight of the show for me. I feel like I've been very generic and I wanted to get more specific about why this was great, but I'll just pass it back to you so you can pass it to James, because this was just the best women's segment, I think, in a long time, in a long, long time.
I would agree with that. And I think, like you said, I wasn't sure what I wanted to happen with Ruby, but now that it's happened and I've gotten why it's happened, which is great. When they always give you the why, it always makes things so much better.
Yeah.
Especially when it's such a compelling reason such as this. I'm totally cool with, not only am I totally cool with this thing, I agree with you. It was one of, if not the best thing that happened tonight. This whole segment was absolutely phenomenal, James.
No, I loved it. I was very against the turn when it happened. I wasn't against it in theory, but like when it got executed at the pay-per-view, I was just like, ugh, whatever.
See, I feel like you were more against it in theory, but when it happened, you were more open to it. Because I felt like you weren't that against it in the moment.
I mean, I even in the moment, I wasn't completely against it. But no, even in theory, I've been more intrigued by this storyline than negative on any aspect of it or had like any real opinion on it in terms of how it should go. I think Ruby is a great talent. I think she has been underutilized in a lot of ways in both companies. And I think she gets to show off now. And you said something when you were just describing this, that it's like, well, yeah, now Ruby gets to be the mouthpiece of this group. How crazy is that in a group with Saraya? Saraya is basically known for her mic work. Like, she's more of a mic person than a ring person, like a worker, I'd say. And Ruby still I think she's cut the best promo of this feud so far. Like, Jamie's done some fun stuff, but it's like more of like the generic babyface promo, as good as they've been. Ruby just put on a master class of explaining a heel turn.
Yeah,
and
I agree.
Yeah, I'm very happy to see her in the forefront. I'm sad to see her and Willow kind of, on the outs, but I'm hoping this means good things for Willow. And I want more of the roster to start to get intertwined in this feud. I think this could be a very good blood and guts.
Oh my God! So I was gonna wait, but because you just said that, I just remembered one of the main things I did want to say about this. So I'm sorry to jump in, but one of the other beautiful things about her promo was it's doing what you just said you're hoping is going to happen, which is pull other people into it, because she listed very specific examples. She listed for Tony, that she didn't get recognized as a champion, and that people, were turning on her in favor of Jamie Hayter. She mentioned how the same thing happened with her and Britt, but the key one there was in the middle of that, which was the specific example, which makes the heel turn the most justified, because a split crowd in Arthur Ashe that we were at is understandable, because no one was booing Ruby. They were just cheering both people and happy when one of the people they liked won. We were just cheering no matter who won that match. But the specific example of the semifinals and the Owen Hart, when she beat Chris Statlander and the crowd booed her out of the building while she tried to cut a promo after, is so good, because one, she was the most visibly like shaken up by that you've ever seen, like, her in her career, because she couldn't understand why it was happening, and like she didn't do anything, and she's not someone at that point who's beating all these people. Like, she was already someone who were like, yeah, you're not being used properly. Yep. But then when she got put against Statlander, who, again, mind you, was a replacement, was not in that actual tournament. She was a replacement for someone who got hurt. So obviously there was no plans for her to go to the finals if she was a replacement. This isn't WWE where if you're a replacement in a title match, you're winning the title and they're going to abandon all their plans because of that shit, just the Swerve people. So like all they did was have the person who was planned to be in the finals beat the replacement, and the crowd were not having it. And the fact that she mentioned that specifically as part of the motivation is perfect, because in real life, you could imagine that you could see she was visibly thrown by that and probably a little upset by it. And that plants the seed for the Statlander return to become Canadian for a Hey, her UFO could have landed anywhere. So,
I have been hearing that they are expecting her back very soon.
Yeah, and that's the seeds planted for her to jump right into this feud.
I don't want her in this feud. I want her to just take the title off Jade.
I do too. But both things can happen. Okay. She could take the title off Jade next week and then enter this feud. Okay. And then we have all the titles. I don't care. And for some reason, Jade could join the Outsiders because she kind of feels like one anyway, as opposed to the homegrown. But that was the beauty of it, that she planted the seeds for more escalation in this feud. So there's already not only do we get development this week, and then we got the why. Now we have seeds planted for the future, so we have more to look forward to, and it is all uphill. That is true. I mean, if you're gonna have someone else from Long Island dethrone Max, I mean, I'd be cool with that. I'm a big Statlander fan, so
yeah. Same.
Is she's from Long Island?
No,
Yeah.
she's from outer space.
yeah, but she lives in Long Island. After coming from outer space, she moved from space to Long Island, so she's in that group of Max,
Yeah.
Kurt,
The Andromeda Galaxy, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
It's been a while. I do miss Statlander on my TV. She was phenomenal. So I hope she's back soon.
I genuinely think she's the best female wrestler in the company. But we can talk about that more when she's back and she's proven me right. But
yeah. No, I think there's definitely an argument to be had there. I'm predicting that Ruby faces Willow sometime in the next 2 weeks. I'm gonna go out on that.
Well, Willow has a Ring of Honor women's title match tomorrow night against Athena. And I've been saying that I think Athena could reasonably fit into this feud as an outsider alongside Saraya and Tony and now Ruby. So maybe
she's doing really good work from what I've seen with the heel turn.
Yeah.
So
her promo last week was just so fun and so good and so super villainy that I loved it.
Yeah, and her in-ring stuff as a heel was great too. And I saw her at I guess they were filming Dark Elevation before Rampage, before Full Gear. The crowd, she had the crowd fucking booing her like crazy.
Yeah.
So she's been great with this heel turn, and she's really embraced it and made it her own. I'm happy for her. So that's good. But this feud is fun. It's great, and I'm looking forward to the rest of it. Speaking of fun feuds, after this we had another backstage interview. This time with Hangman Adam Page. Obviously, it was with Renee again, so that always makes things interesting. Also,
awkward.
Hangman rocking a brutal shiner after that match.
We saw it during the match. We
Yeah.
saw it, and we all said, "Oh God, it's gonna blow up so bad."
Yep, and I assume in the last few days it's gone down a bit, but it's still pretty ugly. Anyway, Hangman says that his heart was blackened in the Texas death match after he had to go somewhere he didn't want to go. But everyone should be warned that if they want to push him, he will take them to hell. Renee then asks, is everything over with Moxley? And Paige then takes the time to apologize to her for the awkwardness and I don't know how kind of, again, for giving her a hard time during their interviews together. And then he also apologizes for what she had to see on Sunday, but he says that wasn't really his fault. And then he finishes the promo off by saying that after Texas death that he's done with Moxley. So that lasted all of 2 segments, but I actually really like this promo, James.
I did too. I wish it didn't get completely negated later on in the night, but yeah. I did like the feud. I did like the promo. Hangman can be a good promo. It's not his strength, but he can cut a good promo. I liked the little interaction between him and Renee. I thought that was very good. And I'm with Danny, and I'm going to let Danny say it. As good as it was. I'm not even going to say it. I want Danny to say it because we're pretty much on the same page here.
Danny?
I have no idea what he's talking about.
I knew that was coming.
Okay.
No.
I'll take back over them. Neither of them should have been on TV tonight.
Oh,
Hangman yeah.
No, I don't mind Hangman in the interview he was in. If that's all he did on the show,
Yeah.
fine. Because he's fucking, you can see how visibly hurt he is.
Yeah.
So, if that was it, I wouldn't mind just Hangman. My issue is more later on, but I do agree with you in general. Yeah, we're on the same page about that.
The one thing that I kind of headcanoned it was it was very clear that throughout the match, Moxley did more damage to Hangman. And Hangman didn't put him down as much as he put him in a position that he needed to stop the match. He was choking him out. He was hanging him. So a tap out doesn't necessarily mean you're too roughed up as much as it's you're not willing to continue or you cannot continue. So I in theory, I could see how Moxley could have worked that match. But even then, he didn't look banged up at all. He didn't look like he was selling it at all, as opposed to Hangman, who hobbled. But
yeah,
that's it. Otherwise, good promo.
You could hear Excalibur during that match that we'll talk about in a bit, trying to say, like, oh, Moxley, we don't know how injured he is, like how he got cleared, but he's also a crazy person. And also, as well, Moxley has worked matches after brutal pay-per-view matches in the past. So this isn't new for him. It's it's not something they just did, and quite frankly, it's in character for him. But I do agree. After a Texas death match of that level, where the guy literally almost killed the other guy to win, I could kind of see why people wouldn't want either of them in the ring. Backstage promo, I think I'm with Danny. I'm totally okay with that. But wrestling, it's a lot.
Yeah.
Dan, did you have any comments on this promo though before we moved on?
I thought it was good. It's a total Hangman promo, very emotional, character driven. The interactions with Renee were nice, except for the part where he's kind of like, "Yeah, it's not my fault," Don't be mad at me. It's kind of thing where it's like, even if part of that's like, yeah, kind of, you didn't instigate this beef, but like,
he absolutely did.
He instigated this match.
Yeah, he instigated the whole thing. He had a match with Mox, and then when he came back, he was pissed at Mox. Mox wasn't like talking crap. So like he absolutely instigated this feud.
Yeah, true. That's fair. Yeah. So in that case, you're just totally lying and then victim blaming. But other than that, I thought he came off super likable. But no, it was a good promo. But also, I liked it more when I thought the feud was over. So
yeah, agreed with that. All right. After we came back from commercial, I believe it was. We had a post-revolution backstage promo from a very bloodied and just bumps on his head MJF. I'm honest, I kind of missed writing a lot of this down, but he's having his bar mitzvah next week in Winnipeg, so that should be fun. But this promo was good, and I'm just, like I said, I just didn't write enough notes on it, but I liked it. If you guys have anything to say on it.
I can't wait for the bar mitzvah.
It's
a bar mitzvah, right? I think bar mitzvahs are for girls. Yeah. So, but yeah, I'm hyped for that too. It should be a lot of fun.
I thought it was good. I much preferred the other promo that came later, but I thought this was good.
Yeah, it was very MJF-ish, but that's not necessarily a bad thing.
I really want to know who's going to interrupt it though next week. That's really the exciting aspect.
Yeah, it's a good point. Never mind. All right, so next we had an
Jungle Boy will.
Yeah, with FTR.
Yeah.
And the first thing I noticed was, hey, we can say Shatter Machine now. I guess we missed that on Sunday, but I'm hyped to scream Shatter Machine again because as cool as the name Big Rig was, it just doesn't have the same flow.
I mean, I preferred Big Rig simply for Brody.
Yeah, no, I agree, but yelling Shatter Machine is way more fun.
Yeah.
You gotta yell like Corey does. Anyway, Cash says that after a great 2022, they've had a rough couple of months. They lost to the Acclaimed, then they lost all three of their titles in a very short period of time, and they lost one of their best friends in wrestling in Jay Briscoe. So after that, they needed to take a step back, but now they can't sit back and watch the Guns call themselves the best tag team in the world, running around with the titles when they're a bunch of spoiled little assholes who had daddy ass get them into the best wrestling company in the world. Dax steps in and says that the Guns took away his last memory with one of his best friends, so now they're going to come after the Guns for both retribution and revenge. Now, I'm probably not doing this one any justice either, Danny, because I thought this was a good promo. It's nice to see them again. I thought Cash had the better of these, he had the better material out of these two men, but it was still good from both of them. And like I said, it was good to see them.
Yeah, I just want to quickly disagree with that tweet that was put on the screen because they're technically here to save the tag division, but the tag division was ruined specifically for them to come back and save it. So I don't want to give them too much daps for that. What the fuck?
I disagree with that entirely.
I thought Cash was really good in this.
Yeah, he was. I'd like that he got to talk more during this, but that being said, this promo did make me hype for the Acclaim. I am always hype for the Acclaim, but it did make me hype for FTR. But I am still going to be a little salty that the tag division got wasted on the Guns and taken away from the Acclaim to go straight to FTR. That being said, oh boy, that just make me fucking happy they were back. This was fun. This was good. This made me excited for a little bit. That'll go away when they have to fight the Guns again, and when they're the champs and the Acclaim, they're not on TV as much. But we'll get to the Acclaim later. But good promo. I'm still a little bit down on FTR, but I'm warming up so quickly because they're so fucking good.
They really are. If the Acclaimed were still champs, who would they be going against at this point?
The Jericho Appreciation Society.
What, Cool Ange and Daddy Magic, just for another free win, I guess.
And then Jericho and whichever person he wants to team. Or no, then Sammy and Garcia, and then Hager and Jericho. They run the gauntlet, and they beat all three.
No, sex gods in there.
If you want to do that too, sure. But I mean, I just feel like you got to do Garcia and Guevara because they got a story. They've been teaming up. And you say that like everything they've fucking done hasn't been great, man. They had a great feud with Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal. Every shitty team they face has been great.
I don't have any question of the Acclaimed's ability. The Acclaimed is amazing.
Everyone loves the Acclaimed.
He said the thing. But the Jericho Appreciation Society are just terrible. They're
a vortex that you just get trapped in.
Yes.
Ricky Starks he broke the fucking cycle, okay?
Barely. We were not enjoying the feud. He won it. That's great. It ended. We weren't enjoying the ride. Nobody
but now that the ride's over, I can look back at it more fondly. He won since the outcome was good. Also, oh my God, do you not just want to see fucking Caster annihilate these guys week after week after week in fucking raps?
That's what I was about to say. Like the Acclaimed would definitely make this a highly entertaining feud because A, Jericho selling Max's raps would be great, and then B, Jericho could probably do a decent job of dishing it out, and then he's just going to get it back tenfold from Max and Bowen. So it would have been fun, but
hey, Max, I've already given you the free ammo, but I want Max to be the guy on TV to mention January 6th to Chris Jericho specifically. I can't wait. Oh God, I know I'm kind of jumping forward again but James brought it up. But there's no downside if the Acclaim were still champions. Okay, if that's all I'm saying, that's all I'm ever gonna say. I'll say it a year from fucking now. If they're like, oh, they could Orange Cassidy and Acclaim, people should not lose their titles anytime soon. Unless it's a Christian Cage specifically. That's about it. But yeah, what do you think about FTR specifically? James, did you talk about FTR yet or no?
Nope. I was really happy Cash was the one who did most of the talking because I'm not ready to forgive Dax for his podcast. And
yeah, FTR Bald's done enough talking during their hiatus. Like Cash.
And admittedly, even beyond that, Dax is the one who we've already gravitated towards. So it's nice to give Cash the opportunity to have that connection as well. So it was a good promo. They are crazy over. It was like from the crowd was eating it up every second they were there. So it's going to be good. I'm happy for them. And them being back already just makes the tag division feel stronger. Because while you're right about the tag titles, that the idea that the tag titles are going to be rescued by FTR, we had been talking for a while now that it did feel like the division was suffering. So titles now. Roman is somewhere just smirking at the camera, and I'm happy. I'm happy they're back.
Yeah,
quietly. I'm quietly happy.
Well, I mean, you're talking about it on a podcast, so
Right.
how are you any better than Dax?
You're a little more reserved.
There's positivity coming out of my mouth.
That guy is super positive. You're talking about CM Punk, guy who did nothing wrong,
Or WWE.
A lot of power and positivity. Let's move on. We had a quick backstage interview with Jade Cargill where she mentioned that she has yet to be challenged in AEW. So she issues an open challenge to any Canadian wrestler to come after her TBS title next week in Winnipeg. We followed that up with AR Fox and Top Flight versus the Jericho Appreciation Society members, Chris Jericho, Sammy Guevara, and Daniel Garcia. The commentary opened this by calling it a stylistic nightmare for the JAS. And I thought that was not only a good call, but we really saw it early as both Jericho and Sammy had a tough time against both, I think it was Dante Martin and AR Fox, with both of them running back into the corner and hugging the person they were going to tag in. First Jericho hugging Sammy, and then Sammy hugging Daniel Garcia. And the High Flyers were in control until Cool Hand Ange distracted Dante Martin, and then that allowed Garcia to hit him with a right hand as Martin was in midair, and they took control of the match. Later, towards the end of the match, Fox and Dante were able to take out Garcia, Guevara, and Angelo on the outside, and Darius actually had Jericho on the ropes back in the ring. Darius was able to reverse the walls of Jericho into a roll-up, but Jericho ended up kicking out. And then as Darius goes to hit the ropes, Kager comes in with Floyd and hits him in the back, setting up Jericho for the Judas effect and the win. After the win,
before we get into that, can I just talk about the match real quick?
Please do, yeah.
I gotta say, this match reminded it's weird. I don't know how to explain it, but this match gave me like year one AEW vibes when specifically when it came to Jericho. We live in a world where we're watching Chris Jericho, former WWE Undisputed Champion, first AEW World Champion, 9-time Intercontinental Champion. He took on Ring of Honor Champion. He took on AR Fox, a guy that if you weren't an indie like maniac, you did not know about previously. We had Jericho versus AR Fox, and it was good. It was enjoyable. But did anybody ever think that that would be a match or a combination that would have happened? I think that's awesome. No matter what you might think of AR Fox or Top Flight or that trio, whatever, I think it's awesome that that's a world we live in with AEW, where these like surreal matchups are happening. I'm not in any way saying like dream match, that's silly, but like surreal matchup, like something you never really thought you'd see kind of thing. I think that's awesome. And I thought the match was fun, and I'm glad that Floyd was used to end a match because it's a bat. But yeah, just fun stuff. Fun match.
As I always say, bats are definitely match ending.
Yep.
But yeah, you're right. It did kind of have like year one AEW vibes. It's just a match I didn't know I want to see, but now I'm getting it, and I'm like really into it and really excited because it's good. You know, a young tag team, and and an indie vet going against Chris Jericho, and two younger guys that he's brought into his fold. Like, yeah, that's a match I'm very interested in watching. So I always like when we get those type of vibes from AEW. We kind of got them with Brian when he was running that gauntlet for a few weeks, where we just see matches that I didn't know I wanted that, and so Tony Khan put it together, and we ended up with 4 fantastic matches. This wasn't at that level, but Danny, it was still a very good and very entertaining match.
Yeah, it was fine.
Did its job.
Yeah, it did its job. What was the point of the Elite feuding with Top Fox if they were just gonna job to other people? A pseudo,
Top Fox.
Yeah, it feels pointless at this point. But I don't really. The match was good. I don't have like much to say about it. I actually am super pumped to talk about the post-match.
All right, cool. So let's get to that.
Yeah,
So after the win, the Jericho Appreciation Society grabbed the mic to talk some shit. Apparently, it's the 1-year anniversary of the JAS. Congratulations to them. But they then declare themselves the number one contenders for the trio championships and call out the House of Black, with Jericho telling them to hit the lights and come on out in what
bizarre. I
one
loved
of the greatest entrances of all time. So the lights go out, but instead of the House of Black showing up, motherfucking Kansas hits and the Elite appear on the stage. So Kenny comes out and he says that both the Elite and Jericho have pretty much stayed out of each other's business for the better part of the last 3 years, with Kenny saying that they feels like that was out of a bit of a mutual respect. And then Don Callis comes over, that scumbag, and he cuts Kenny off and says he'll handle this. So Callis starts talking to Jericho, saying they've known each other for years and years, but he's only the second best wrestler to come out of Winnipeg, maybe even the third best.
If he had a few months to train. Such a great line. Such a great line.
I didn't hear what it was, and that makes it so much better. Anyway, Jericho is now enraged, and he yells at Don and the Elite to come down to the ring and fight. But the lights go out again, and the House of Black appear on the Jumbotron. So Malachi says that if Omega and Jericho want to get embarrassed in their hometown of Winnipeg, you idiot, that they can. And he says that if they want the titles, and then the lights go out again, and then the lights come back on, and the House of Black appear in between both teams at the bottom of the ramp, and Malachi finishes his sentence by saying, "You could come and get them." Then the lights go out a third time, then they come back on, and the House of Black have disappeared into the ether. So, Danny, I love this. This is cool. And this match next week is going to be sick.
Yeah, this is my second favorite thing on the show after the Ruby promo. This was so fucking cool. Everything about it. I agree with you, James, that the Jassholes aren't good and it's run its course, and they've been more of a hindrance than a help. But seeing them do anything besides what they've been doing is always refreshing at first. Whenever they do something new, it's like, oh my God, thank God, this is so refreshing. And just the way he set it up, like for one of the greatest entrances of all time, where it's like, that's weird. Why do you think that? And then, it's because it's a song you like from back in your day. You were setting that up. Okay, it was a misdirect. Okay, like that makes sense. And the interaction between, again, this was refreshing for the Elite too. This is the first time since they've been back I've been like, okay, cool. Like I'm into this. Like I'm happy again. Like happy Kenny was there, hearing him talk like a somewhat of a baby face. It was just very, very refreshing. And then Callis was great. Like Rev already summed it up nicely. He was fantastic. And then, oh my God, House of Black. This was a perfect segment because it started with a match, and then there was a promo that had a premise, and that premise was built upon by the swerve of the Elite coming out instead, and then that was built upon further by House of Black coming out. Even the way they did it on paper sounds corny. In execution, it was super cool how they started their promo backstage and finished it outside. I liked it. Some people probably didn't like it, but I liked it. I said it earlier about like Orange Cassidy and the Claim, where people should never lose their titles. The House of Black should never lose these fucking titles. Holy shit, did they look so perfect on them. Yep. Seeing Buddy Matthews with that title around his neck, just standing there, that was fucking cool. I kind of agree with some of these tweets. Like the Trios division is like almost saved just like that. They're trying to save these tag divisions, and it's kind of working. It's weird. They sunk a tag division to save in the terms of regular tag, but for the Trios, they're building these scraps back together. But I love this. I'm so hyped for this match. I have no concern about House of Black retaining, but I'm so hyped for this match next week. It's going to be so much fun. And Malachi Black interacting with Chris Jericho. Sure. What the fuck? Why the hell not? Sammy Guevara getting knocked around by Brody King. Oh my God, I'll take that.
Oh, that's going to be good.
Yeah.
I'm actually more excited for Guevara versus Buddy
Jackson. Oh yeah, Buddy too.
Oh yeah, that'll be good too. Yeah, there's so many iterations of this that are going to be fantastic. But real quick, with the Kenny stuff, I did really like the promo, but I'm still gonna make fun of it. He said, "Oh, I feel like we haven't interacted out of respect, or it's been some sort of mutual respect." And I'm like, "Yeah, because you both have your fucking vortexes where you only care about your stories and you don't mingle. Like Jericho has his fucking vortex. The Elite have their own, and you start to. It's a little more wide than like the Codyverse or like Jericho's, but like it's pretty much like they just feud with their friends and the people they already know and like."
I disagree. I disagree. And look, I'm being objective because yes, they like to put over and build up their guys, but you asked what was the point of like the Kenny, like the Elite versus Top Fox, which I like that name. I'm going to stick with that.
Well, I only say that now that they lost. I knew what the point was when it was happening.
But the point was so they look good to go make House of Black even look better.
Yeah,
I mean,
that was the
Appreciation Society look better.
And on BTE though, like James said, like yeah, they do put over their guys. They said that they've worked with Dante and Darius before, and they really like them, and they're 100 times better than the last time they faced each other. And they know AR Fox from like way back in the day, and they were excited to wrestle him again. So yeah, they probably picked them, but I don't think they're picking guys that don't deserve to be there.
Yeah, I personally, I do think the Elite do a good job of putting other talent over. It's just
when they don't do that. Yeah, I'm not saying they don't do that.
But I think that it's like you said, their vortex is like, if I'm going to say that they have a vortex, their vortex is pretty big. A lot of guys benefit from their feuds with the Elite, and it tends to be pretty all-encompassing. And I'll be honest, I'm kind of dreading next week just because I want this trio stuff to be over. But I kind of think, I don't know why I have this weird feeling that Don Callis is going to betray Kenny and go to Jericho.
There's no, I don't know about him going to Jericho, but he's for sure betraying Kenny. Mm-hmm. Like that's what they've been planting the seeds for, because the leader face and he's still the heel manager. So it's only a matter of time before that happens. But like it's the BT verse. It's anyone. Oh, you've been on BT? Or, okay, cool. We'll do something with you. Like. That's the thing is where they all have these pockets, and when too many people have their own pockets of the roster, that's not going to work. So that's why they pushed out Cody and they pushed out Punk and they tried to push out FTR, but I think Tony's finally drawn the line, Sorry, I constantly slip in and out of being serious and then doing bits, and I just sometimes there's no line.
I was like,
the crazy thing, that was the bit, right? I think that was the bit. I don't know.
I don't know anymore, but I don't know what I actually believe.
Danny has worked himself into a shoot.
Or did he shoot himself into a work? I don't know.
I don't know either.
If anything, perhaps the Elite's vortex is just they're constantly near the titles, but I guess they are that good. But they, at least recently, they're just constantly near titles, whether it was the Bucks in the tag division or now the Elite as a trio in the trios division for the titles. But so they're just constantly there, and I can understand maybe being a little annoyed at that, but I don't think it's to the point where it's egregious.
Well, I think the best way to look at it is like to use like Ricky Starks as an example. Ricky Starks doesn't have his own vortex. Ricky Starks is the guy traveling from like vortex to vortex in a way, or he used to, because he used to be part of the Team Taz actually, like vortex. But he's the guy working with the guys with the vortex, and because they're like, oh, I want to work with this guy now, and then you're going to be in my story for this amount of time, and then those guys get put out, and they either go into another guy's vortex or they are on Dark. Or Rampage for the next few months. And so that's what I mean. Like, there's just this pockets of the AEW like universe, for lack of a better term, or because that's the best term since Jericho Appreciation Society is kind of in this conversation. There's the sections. You're either feuding with you're either in the Elite story, you're either in the Jericho Appreciation stuff, or you're either in like the cool divisions, like where Orange Cassidy and like the Acclaimed, or like, or MJF, MJF doesn't have a vortex yet, but we'll see in 6 months.
No, he absolutely does have a vortex. It's just he tends to be mingling with other vortexes.
Who's this? I'm sorry, I was reading.
MJF.
Oh yeah. Well, there's also the vortex that surrounds the title. So I think every set of titles usually also has its own small vortex, because it's kind of like a comic book where like there's runs for different characters, like teams, and then there's some of like the solo characters, and they'll just pop up in one run, and then they'll pop up in another run, and it's kind of like that. You have like your movers, and you have your your set pieces, and it's a lot, and sometimes you can become a set piece by winning a title, and then if you lose the title, you become a mover. But teams like the Elite, like Jericho and whoever he's running with, sometimes you get singles guys who have their own vortexes, like Cody had for a while. But when they're the set pieces, and you move different players in and out of them, and it kind of feels like those set pieces are stagnant because they rarely enter a different set piece, and become movers. But I can see what Danny is saying here. I think it's just kind of easier sometimes to move, especially singles guys, move them in and out of feuds, or move teams like Top Fox in and out of feuds, than it is to move like the Jericho Appreciation Society or the Elite or some of the bigger people.
I also think that the bigger people is kind of the point of what I was about to say. I also think the people with vortexes tend to be the people who are in the long run trying to put people over, even if it fails a good amount of times. Like,
and they're usually very well established.
Exactly.
Like Fox as well.
Yeah. Like Ricky Starks is somebody who's on the rise, so he benefits from working in other people's worlds, not pulling people into his. So, yeah, I do. To a degree, then yes, I do understand the vortex comment, but I'm not going to lie to you guys. Producer Boy's tweet really bummed me out now.
What did it say? I didn't see it.
It was a spoiler involving Ring of Honor, which is tomorrow. So.
Oh my God! Did you time travel, Producer Boy? That's insane. But anyway,
how's it going? You know it. Good to see you again.
What happened? I feel like we've been talking about vortexes for too long, so we got to move on.
That is fair. So let's move on. So after this, we obviously had the Tony Khan International Championship announcement. Don't forget to go see Shazam 2. We are not sponsored by them, but go ahead. And then we came back to a commercial with Bryan Danielson's post Revolution's backstage promo. Oof. And it was short, but it was very good. It was very powerful. And this is going to be another one of those times where I say, I'm not going to do this justice. So Bryan is in the back. He's on the floor. He can barely even sit up straight. Shazam. He can barely even sit up straight. He's covered in MJF's blood. And he sits there and laments that even though he thought he was doing all this for his kids, Max was right. When he realized that, he woke up in his own submission in the label lock, and he couldn't feel one of his legs and he couldn't feel his arms. He realized that Max was right about him not being able to play with his kids anymore. And then he says that it's time for him to go home, and he just gets up and walks off. And James, this left it very open-ended as to what Bryan's going to do. It almost feels to me like he's going to end up taking some time off. But like I said, it was very emotional and very powerful.
So Bryan talked about when he first signed with AEW that even though he's going to be full-time, there will be little pockets where he takes off to be with his family. And I do think that this is what that is. I don't think it's going to be super long. Maybe it goes a month, maybe a little less. But I think that's good for Bryan right now, especially as we're seeing what's going on with the BCC. We're still figuring out what that means. We're figuring out what that means for Bryan specifically, at least. But I'm okay with him taking this time off after that loss, because I think he's going to come back and he's going to have a very strong direction, no matter what that direction may be. I think clearly that means it's not going to be a title, but I think he's going to have a purpose and a direction, and that's good for someone like Bryan Danielson, who, in a weird way, like we're going back into this term, he does but doesn't have like a vortex, because whenever Bryan does have a storyline, he does tend to bring a lot of different people into it. As we saw when he was challenging Hangman, he took on the entire Dark Order. As he was getting ready to challenge MJF, he brought in all these guys to wrestle, like Timothy Thatcher and Roosh. And and it was awesome. So I think no matter what comes next, it's going to be leading to what Brian wants, which is just wrestling people that he wouldn't have the opportunity to wrestle otherwise. Yep,
Yeah,
that's fair.
I would say I agree with the last tweet that was put up before that one, where it's like, hey, maybe that was the greatest backstage promo ever. That was...
Yeah, I think so.
Especially like right after a match too. And like if I can even put a subcategory to that, it was phenomenal, Danny.
It was genuinely moving and a little heartbreaking, honestly. It contextualized something that I didn't know we were going to get context for, and it was so good that it kind of made us. It kind of made me a lot more okay with him tapping out. It really justified it. I've never seen such a beautifully put justification for a tap out. It's a lot more nuanced. Like, I don't want to compare, especially because I feel like I shit on Edge way too much in this, but like, because I actually, whoa, a lot of feedback there. I liked the Extreme Rules match, the I Quit match between him and Balor, but like, and I like the ending. Don't get me wrong, but it's like, like that's very like, there's nothing subtle about that. It was pretty much like, oh look, your wife's in danger. You now have to quit. Whereas for Brian, that was so much more nuanced and like story driven and like mental. The fact that he put it so beautifully. Like, I woke up, I got knocked out by the oxygen tank, and when I woke up, I was in the label lock, and my first instinct was to fight, and then I couldn't feel my arm, and then my leg wasn't. I couldn't feel my leg. I thought about my family. I thought about how Max was actually right, so I tapped out, and I've never. That's such a beautiful storyline justification for it. It's so beautifully put that like I literally the way he put it, I'm like, oh man, I really can't blame you. I can't be mad at you, and I can barely be mad at the fact that you lost anymore because the way you did it. And that was just the honestly unneeded, but just like cherry on top of what was the best last man. The best Iron Man match of all time. Now, I don't want to say anything definitive like that, and maybe possibly the greatest Iron Man match of all time. I mean, there's no doubt it 100% was, but like, I don't want to say certainly just to not catch flack, But like, just having that promo on top of that match, like, I can't think of anything. I don't know how to qualify this, but I can't think of anything better than that in whatever category that is. Like, I don't know what the category is, but there's nothing better in that category than that combination of match and follow-up promo. And that's not even a continuation of the feud. That's a fucking bow on it. That's literally the final part of that feud. That was like the epilogue after an amazing fucking movie that it wasn't revenge for the hero. It wasn't the hero succeeding, but it was that little bit of to send us home somewhat happy, to make us more accepting of the sad ending of the movie. So fucking perfect. Perfect. I was just amazing. Take some ball and time off, Brian.
To go off of JD's comment about it felt very real. Danielson has done a great job at selling me on the art of pro wrestling. Brian has said on multiple occasions that he views professional wrestling as almost like performance art. He views it as an art form in his own right. And I agree personally. I think Bryan Danielson is an artist when it comes to this sport and when it comes to this form of entertainment. He not to take anything away from MJF, who's doing a great job as a heel champion, but he just keeps saying it. Like, I am the most complete wrestler. I am the most complete wrestler. I'm the best at everything. Brian literally is. Brian has mastered the promo. Brian has mastered the way of getting over. I'm still, like, days later, thinking about him finally doing the yes chant. I'm still thinking about that moment and having that ability to just throw your shoulder up and getting an entire arena to do it with you.
Apparently, that was on a whim too. Like
I believe it. I believe it. And we're a big believer here on the pod about trying to give people flowers when they're still around to get them. Brian has always been getting his flowers. He will continue to get his flowers. And the day Bryan Danielson does hang up the boots, it's going to be a really sad day for the sport because one of the best of all time, if not the best of all time, is going away.
2 out of 3 of us will cry on that occasion.
I'm really confused because I know I'm one of them. I don't know who the other one is.
It's Danny, the joke. I don't cry, remember? Because I'm a sociopath.
Oh, yeah. You got to work on yourself, man.
Yeah, dude, like I'm a sociopath. I'll cry at like any given moment. I'll start crying.
I'm a different type of
now.
I'm just happy all the time. And if I start getting sad, I stop being sad and be awesome instead. True story.
Okay, Neil Patrick Harris. Anyway.
All right. The next thing I want to talk about, I know there was a match after this, but I do want to talk about the backstage interview with the Acclaimed, so we can end with the match. I'm not going to lie, I did miss the beginning of this. I assume the Acclaimed said something before they're interrupted by Cool Hand Ange and Daddy Magic, who they were sports entertainers and basically offered them a spot in the JAS, to which the Acclaimed and Daddy Ass just laughed them off and said they were on TV more than the two of them. But I assume somebody saw the beginning of this and could fill me in on what the Acclaimed said.
They said everybody loves the Acclaimed.
That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
All right, so I missed about 15 seconds. But yeah, that's what happened. So, Danny, as you mentioned earlier, that the Acclaimed would probably be feuding with the JAS if they still have the titles. Looks like they're going to be anyway.
Yeah, that's why I said it, honestly. Otherwise, I would have never seen this coming. But I'm gonna love it because I mean, of course, someone had to say that, but because Caster's gonna just annihilate these guys to such a degree that it'll almost make the past year feel worth it. But I'm gonna contradict myself a little bit and say, oh my God, of fucking course, Jericho's like, a year ago, he's like, oh, Eddie Kingston's so over. I'm going to feud with that guy. Oh, the Blackpool Combat Club's over. I'm going to feud with those guys forever. Ricky Starks is really over right now. I'm going to feud with that guy. Oh, the Acclaimed were the hottest thing in the company. Let me siphon some of that, let me siphon what's left of that while there's still something to siphon. Fucking leech, man. It's going to be amazing, though. It's so fucking... I don't care. It's going to be sports entertaining as fuck, bro.
I'm looking forward to Daddy Magic selling the raps.
when it happened, I was reminded of something you said in the past, Danny, that the Acclaimed are everything that the Jericho Appreciation Society are trying to be, that they are better sports entertainers than the sports entertainers. And I think we're going to see that. And I'm very excited for that. They already did it tonight. I mean, granted, they were served that up and they knocked it out of the park. But I think we're going to see it week in and week out.
And this is what actually is going to happen, right? I just realized it. Right, they're gonna be Cool Hand Ange and Magic Daddy Mike. They're gonna beat them, and like I said, they're gonna beat Guevara and Garcia and maybe Hager and Jericho. But the real thing is here, they're gonna beat the Underlands first, but then Daddy Ass is gonna get involved, and the trio of them are gonna beat Jericho and Garcia Vara, as they're known, I think, in a trios match, and then they're going to be the people to dethrone House of Black, because Billy Gunn is going to scoop slam Brody King, and then a famouser, and and Caster's just I'm saying this, and I'm not serious, but now that I'm saying it, I do want to see Caster roast them. I want to see Caster roast everyone in a rap, so I want them to feud with everyone. But I think they are going to transition into a trio after this.
I will say this: considering how long Jericho feuds usually take, I think that means the House of Black would get a nice long run with the trios title before the Acclaimed ends up taking them off of them. So that probably work out.
It all works out.
I think we're going to see the Elite versus Jericho Appreciation Society And I think House of Black is obviously winning next week. And Hard Rock versus Rap. I would love. I will never forget early Raw 2000s where Cena performed a rap and Jericho had Fozzy come out and they performed, and they had the fans decide who was better.
See, here's the thing.
I would totally recreate that right now and be okay with it.
Yeah, you could do so. I think they're gonna do something like that. And the thing is, I actually like rock more than rap, but not the type of rock that Jericho likes. So, if I'm choosing between the two, I'm choosing rap over Jericho's rock, but or Nick Maniotis' rock. Sorry, but be on the podcast, defend yourself. But, yeah, so this is gonna be good. It's a lower card feud, but that's fine because it's at least gonna be entertaining, and it's something for both teams to do.
Yeah, it'll definitely be fun. All right, let's get to the last match of the evening before the main event, which was Jon Moxley and Claudio Castagnoli against I said it right, against John Silver and Alex Reynolds. As we mentioned earlier, how and why is Jon Moxley wrestling tonight? I have no idea. Anyway, Mox and Claudio went after Silver and Reynolds right as the bell rang, attacking them from behind. Just some random notes I threw in here. Taz keeps calling Silver Johnny Hungry. He can't say Johnny Hungy for some reason, and I think that's funny as hell. Also, Silver was particularly violent tonight, especially against Moxley, and it seemed a bit out of character for him.
He keeps attacking his boys.
Yeah, he's standing up for him. But also, real quick on Taz.
No, I like that. It was cool.
I just want to say one note about Taz during the Ruby promo when she was making her entrance. He was like trying really, yeah. He was saying, he's like, yeah, she's going through a lot of stuff, and I can't blame her for it. Ruby, Soho, and then, but like, yeah, so like I understand where she's coming from. Like he was making a point, and he was being serious, but he's like, it's compulsory. I have to fucking sing it. So he had to interrupt himself to sing it and then continue his point. And I thought that was hilarious.
I do that all the time, so I get it.
I would also like to sidestep for just one quick second. We don't do tangents here on the Mark It Down podcast. But Taz was a moody bitch tonight, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was. He kind of was.
They asked him about Ricky Starks, and he was like, well, I don't hold Ricky Starks' hand. I'm not his brother. I don't know what he's doing. And they joked. He was like, that was the longest way of saying no ever. And then, like, there was another instance later in the night where they were asking him a question, and again, he was kind of moody about it. He's like, Shivani, what if I just throw you off the stage? He's like, I thought we were friends. And it's like, yeah, I'm sorry, Tony. It's like he was in a mood tonight. I don't know if that was legit. I don't know if he was playing it up. But either way, it was great.
I think sometimes Taz is just trying to be a dick to Shivani as a joke, and he just takes it a little too far, and then he probably has to mute himself. Like, my bad, dude. Like, I feel like he ends up doing that. Also, we kind of forgot to mention at the very beginning of the show, somehow Shivani and Taz's mics went through the arena.
That was really funny.
And then I love Taz after they get cut off. He was like, I have to feed the people for some time, but I can't afford it. So now you're not all the people. And he's like, I'm here till Thursday. But back to the match. Where was I in here? Anyway, the Dark Order were finally coming back for a bit, and they were about to put in that sick tandem offense they always do. I don't know what it's called. Does that have a name, James? It needs a name. That whole back and forth thing where it's like the
I know exactly. I have no idea.
So they were doing that. They were doing
let's just call it. You're talking about the Beaver Boys, right?
Yeah.
Let's just call it the Beaver Barrage. Just,
okay.
Give it a name.
Danny on point with names tonight. Top Fox, Beaver Barrage, good stuff. So they're laying in the Beaver Barrage, but as Reynolds went for, I believe it was the Stunner, Mox countered it with a standing rear naked choke. He then took Reynolds down and put him in what I believe they called a Daria choke, forcing Reynolds to tap out. After the match, Moxley refused to release the hold. Silver, who had been thrown violently into the barricade by Claudio towards the right before the choke went in, he came back in and started to get Mox off, but he was attacked by Claudio. And
whoa! This is wrestling. Nobody's getting each other off, man.
Okay.
Have you seen Daddy Magic? Are you kidding me?
Or the Acclaimed in general.
Yeah,
They're always
some of these
on
guys are getting off, man. I don't know.
Fucking Max sees MJF. Anyway, Evil Uno eventually comes down to try to make the save, but he, after getting by Wheeler, goes face to face with Mox, and then Wheeler comes back in and takes out his leg. So Wheeler joins the beatdown, going after Uno, and eventually Hangman is forced to come down to try to make the save for the Dark Order. The three members of the Dark Order roll out of the ring, and Hangman is checking on them and trying to yell down to make sure they're okay. Claudio takes a step too close to him and eats a right hand. So then there's a 3-on-1 assault against Hangman until eventually the referee course comes down to separate them. And as we were heading into commercial, we saw that both Claudio and Wheeler grabbed weapons, but the refs were able to keep them at bay. So Evil Uno says, fuck the BCC.
Oh my God. Did you? I read it in like an Iron Sheik voice for some reason.
Fuck the BBC. Or the BCC. Anyway.
I mean, BBC's okay. Like,
yeah,
they're
British
fine.
Broadcasting Company.
Yeah, they're fine.
Fuck them too. Then they fired the guys from Top Gear. Anyway,
I mean,
they just apologized to J.K. Rowling and like renewed her show for next season.
Whatever.
So I guess fuck the BBC
yeah,
too.
Exactly. Fuck the BBC.
Okay.
The BBC. Anyway, yeah, James. Very, very obvious here that the BCC are now 100% heel. And as we mentioned earlier, we're disappointed that Hangman had to get involved with Moxley again. But I am kind of curious to see where they're trying to take this.
The numbers are off. That's the big thing here. There's 4 members of BC. Four members Dark Order plus Hangman, and then the 3 members of BCC without Brian. So maybe they recruit. Maybe they say that one of the members of Dark Order, probably Reynolds, is hurt because he definitely got the worst of it tonight. Although how cool was it when Claudio picked up Silver for the gut wrench and then just yeeted him?
Rope.
Yeah, no, I thought that was pretty epic. But yeah, I don't know where it goes. I get a little worried about just. We're still here with Hangman and Mox, but admittedly, the 2 factions getting involved does breathe fresh life into it. It does. So we'll see where it goes. I'm kind of glad that it keeps Hangman, it seems like, away from MJF a little bit longer. And
yeah, Hangman needs. MJF needs a feud, like a short one, I think, before he moves on to Hangman.
Yeah,
definitely. Not to cool him off, so to speak, but it's going to be really hard to follow up this Bryan feud, and I wouldn't want to be the guy to do it. So if you do it with Hangman, that's going to be tough. You give him something short, like they did with Ricky Starks there for a minute, like a one-match thing, and then go to the next feud. I think that would be a good idea.
I think Danny nailed it. I think it's going to be Jungle Boy.
Yeah,
I don't know what this tweet's referring to though. Oh no, who's the oh no in that situation?
Oh, he thinks the Bucks are going to get involved, probably with Hangman.
No, I don't think so. Because
I don't know why. It's not there yet.
No, but not even the Bucks are that trio stuff with Kenny.
Yeah, so I don't necessarily understand that tweet either. But whatever. It's
Twitter. I don't know. We're just boomers. We don't get it, but
it's Twitter.
True.
Danny, what did you think about?
Was there any follow up to that tweet? Were there comments that explained it?
Eric, producer boy. Sorry, I don't want to out his real name because there was anonymity, but he says he thinks they're just saying MJF's upcoming opponent doesn't look good. His upcoming opponent is filler for like a couple weeks, or he probably just won't have one. But like I said, it's going to be Jungle Boy, which is weird to have a heel versus heel feud, but it's like, Bar Mitzvah's like a cultural, like important, personal, very special thing to someone. So of course, Jungle Boy is gonna fucking ruin it and make it all about himself. That's the only reason I said that.
Think about it this way: Jungle Boy appreciates being a boy forever. Having a bar mitzvah is about becoming a man. So inherently, he's gonna have a problem with it. It's right there. It's right there.
No, it's all right there. Yeah. We could all see the small picture. It's not the big picture, but we could all see the small picture there. But
I've been hearing this comment as well. I saw it pitched on the interwebs, and I think it's a good way of moving forward. It becomes like a filler feud without but still important.
yeah, he's gonna feud with all the pillars. He's gonna feud with all the pillars during this title reign, except for Sammy, I think, but he will feud with Britt for sure.
Yeah. If you take out Sammy and put in Adam Cole as like a stand-in for Britt, I'm a-okay with this.
Yeah,
also,
yeah.
There is that list MJF put out, I think, right at the start of his title reign, and I don't know if that was mocking Cody's list.
It was.
I assumed it was, but there is the list, and he's already checked off the first 2, maybe 3 names. I forget how many it's been, but we're on our way. So we could check the list. Maybe the next person he feuds with is on there.
After the pay-per-view, when he did the scrum, when he did his usual thing of barging in, screaming, cursing, and all that stuff, he mentioned Danielson, he mentioned Kenny, and he mentioned Eddie Kingston. So Jungle Jabroni, Darbs. I'm not saying that.
Which one are you gonna say?
He's not gonna say Darbs the school shooter.
Why not?
Adam, my brain don't work, so I can't go cool. I don't think he's ever going to feud with Claudio, at least not in a serious way, not for the AEW title.
Especially now they just turned heel, but he's going to get almost everyone on that list. That's the thing. There's so many good names on the list, and some of them are just fillers. Like not Cowboy. Sorry, Jungle Boy is a filler one, and Darby isn't it'll be like a TV special you build to.
Yes.
But like, out of all the people on this list, to me, there's only like 4 people that could possibly dethrone him, but some more than others. And I'm gonna say it's the Pebble, Edward, Adam, and Darby is the wild card in that one.
I'm still rooting for Eddie.
Dark horse.
I'm still rooting for Eddie.
Yeah, I think
he's my dark horse.
Yeah, I want the Eddie one too, but like, I don't know what the fuck they're doing with them. Like, it's hard. The further out we get, the harder and harder it becomes to see it as a possibility. But I still put it up there over like, Hangman. No offense to Hangman, like he's of the ilk to do it, but I just don't think it'll be him. Pebble's no longer an option, dude. Did you hear how over he was, Eric? You're just wrong,
He's
bro.
got a weird thing against them. He's got a weird thing against Starks. I don't get it.
It's just the past couple weeks. It's a phase. He will literally get over it in a couple weeks. But there's sorry. So the match was fine. Like, it was cool. I'm just more upset that Mox was there. To answer your question from like only a minute ago, Rev, when you definitely asked it. The match was. I'm mad that Moxley was there. Fucking sell that shit, bro. You were fucking hung by your neck. I didn't. Yeah, sorry. He's not a horse. But he does ride them sometimes. What Hangman does. But yeah, you were hanged, and it just I hate the way that sounds, but I just wish he wasn't out there. But fine. I don't know why this story had to be moved along this week. Why couldn't it be moved along like next week or the week after?
Yeah. I saw somebody mention you could do this match, but just replace Mox with Wheeler and have Mox on the outside.
Oh God, we're gonna
join in for the beatdown. But I think that still makes sense, and you still accomplish the same thing here. I guess the only difference is that you don't have Moxley holding in the choke after the bell rings. You probably.
I think that if you just have Mox come in and attack him regardless, it still works.
Yeah, exactly. I think you could have accomplished the same thing while having Moxley still sell the fact that like he was literally almost murdered. So
that's sweet. Charlene gets it.
Mox not bleeding tonight is an upset.
It's true.
It is minus money every week, and he actually didn't bleed. So,
wait. All right, here we go.
Well, him bleeding is minus money. Go ahead, James. I'm sorry.
I'm just confused by JL's comment. Damn.
It's just a weird form of trolling.
Braun Breaker carrying pro wrestling again. JL has been in our chat before, and hello again, JL. The man is a very big NXT fan, and that's fine. but I don't know if he carried wrestling this week.
He's not even carrying NXT, bro. Gigi Dolan's carrying NXT.
Carmelo Hayes, baby.
People
You're gonna be taking that title off Braun Breaker.
Bailey just shouted him out today in the room. Bailey shouted Hayes out.
Oh, Hayes, yeah.
Yeah, he's hype. Also, Gargano's back in NXT. Let's go.
I think that's a one-off.
I know, but it's still fun.
Yeah. But anyway.
Yep. All right. Before we go, let's get some overall thoughts on tonight's Dynamite. I think we all have a very positive view on it.
Yeah, this was a good follow-up to the pay-per-view.
Yeah, exactly. I thought maybe a little promo heavy, but I think you kind of need that when you follow a pay-per-view. And then at the same time, and they were all very good promos, obviously. We had 3 great ones, I thought. But we got good matches, and I think we also set the table for some new feuds coming up.
I agree. I'm excited for what comes next. And that's a good thing. That's how you want to feel coming out of a pay-per-view. So good job by Dynamite tonight. I'm sure, because I love this episode, the ratings are going to be terrible. But I've learned that the ratings don't make sense for this show.
Hey, look, apparently Orange Cassidy and Jay Lethal do great ratings because we all know Orange Cassidy equals ratings. So I think following what was pretty much universally thought to be a great pay-per-view, I wouldn't be surprised, Danny, that if there was a lot of hype coming into the Dynamite this week and it actually did a pretty solid number.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really care about ratings.
Me neither, but I needed to transition you somehow.
They're not real.
They're honestly not.
It's not a good metric. Ratings can be bad, but then you can upload a segment from that show on YouTube and like 8 million people watch it or something. You know, like it doesn't matter. I don't know. JL, hey, your opinion's your opinion, man. You like Braun. Like, you know, I'm just like, you got to understand how it reads as a potentially trolly comments. But if you like Braun and that's genuine, hey, good on you. I mean, you should be more upset that he's not on the main roster at this point, you know. Yeah. Bring him up. But I stand by what I said, where I think Gigi Dolan's best in NXT. But great episode of Dynamite. Big fan. Good follow-up to the pay-per-view, or the great preview, as James was calling it all week. It was a fun time. And yeah, there was, like, honestly, some of my least favorite parts were like the end of the show, and that was so noteworthy. Yeah. But it was overall like a solid show that flew by. So fun stuff, you know. Good stuff. Keep it up, Dynamite. Best show in like a month, it feels like.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think the last good show was probably early February, maybe late January. So I'm excited. I'm really excited to see where they go following this pay-per-view. Hopefully they can continue to build on the momentum and we still get some good wrestling. But I think that about wraps things up here on the Mark It Down podcast. I would like to thank everybody so much for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe so that you can get all of our stuff. We will have our new episode coming out in the next couple of days. James will be reviewing Impact on the Gym Pack Zone in the next tomorrow.
Didn't hear any of that.
I said, what's up, dog?
Are you doing a Ring of Honor show tomorrow along with the Gym Pack Zone?
I am. I will, but I think it's going to be one combined show. I think it's going to be Gym Pack of Honor.
Can we just talk about how great that sign is? TNT title is the Parents. I don't know, bro. That's like the most New York shit I've ever seen. Good shit, Bay Area.
Yeah. Well, actually, this was Sacramento tonight, but Hobbs is from Oakland, so that's probably why they put it up. But like the beam,
no, I think it's because the title got robbed and now belongs to the city.
Por que no los dos? But as I was saying, check out the Gym Pack of Honor show. I guess that's the name of tomorrow to watch James review Impact and ROH. We'll have Danny's Raw Fast Forwards on Monday, where he reviews Monday Night Raw. Our new episode coming out in the next couple of days. And we obviously will be here to review Dynamite every Wednesday. Also, check us out on all our social media stuff. If you're on YouTube, it's in the description below. And if you're on Facebook, well, then you already have our Facebook, so you're fine. And if you're on Twitter, you're fine. So, like I said, thank everybody so much for watching, and we will catch you here next time on the Mark It Down podcast. So, for Danny Hernandez and James Santi, my name is Nick Cummings. Have a good night, everyone.